Hi guys, welcome back. This is Abdurrahman Gilal, and in this short video, I'll be explaining you the repetition structure. I'll try my best to theoretically explain you first, and in my other video, I'll be explaining you with the Java examples that how one can implement repetition structures in Java. First of all, if someone says this is loops, it's also fine because loops also brings a condition where basically we are iteratively, repeating some kind of, line of code or some sort of, statements. So it's all okay if you hear the term called loops or if you listen it like repetition structure. So why am I saying about repetition structure? Because I know that in programming languages, usually we have different type of structures. So sequence structures are those structures which basically flow in a very specific way where one after another comes. So that goes like the waterfall based approach. For example, if I have 10 allens or printfs, they all will go one by one. But the, you know, selection statements or selection structures, these are those which basically, make a direction at certain places. For example, if water is flowing from this side, then we have a condition, either water can go that side or water can go this side, let's say. So it depends based on this condition. So basically that sort of things are called selection structures. That's what we have learned in our previous presentations, that if statements, for example, or switches, they are used for basically implementing the selection structures. So in this video, I'll be explaining you the repetitive structures. You can see like a kind of a small, loop-based thing, which means that anything that comes under this body has to be repeated. So let's start with the theoretical definition of repetition structure. So first of all, like if you see this little girl, she is jumping rope, which means he is basically repeating the same kind of body with the same structure. So there will be a condition where she will not be able to actually go through, this rope, but the steps look similar whenever she jumps and skip the rope. So with theoretical definition, we say repetition structure used to repeat statements or block of code. So what is a statement and block of code? I simply say whenever you see, let's say, kind of a thing that comes under the curly brackets, so it could be one statement, or it could be hundreds of statements. So that's why, like we say, when we have, let's say, some loops up here, and then we have certain body, that is the call body, that will be repeating until we have condition that goes as false. So I'll be explaining like how the condition can go false and what are the things which we can basically focus on. So let's say, so if I have a method called main method, and then the main method also has its body, but basically that's called, statements or block of a statement. So loops will basically help us to repeat that block. So it's not necessary that we just focus the main method, but just trying to explain you in a way that we may have loops in the method, and those methods may have other statements or blocks of code. So there are basically in generally all programming languages, there are majorly two types of loops. One are called counter loops and another called conditional loops. So counter loops are those with the word we can understand, that where we can directly understand that how many times one should be repeating certain things. For example, if I ask someone that how many days are there in the year, so it's very easy to count from 1 to 365, for leap year 366. Or if I say like how many days are there in January or February, so we can specifically go and call, one by one. So it makes a clear sense that we know the starting point and we know the ending point. So that's why we call that loop or repetition structure as a counter. So in Java programming language or C plus plus, these are called basically for loop or for loops. So the for loop or counter loop, it comes same, but usually like in programming language, in order to implement this counter loop, we have to use this structure called for loop. And there is another one that is called conditional loop. So in the Java specifically, we have while and do while. There are two different types of loop. which basically helps us to do the condition-based repetition. For example, if I ask that how many times, one can be blinking their eyes, their lives, so we cannot know, like everybody has different age and everybody has different, ways of blinking their eyes. So we have to see the condition. So basically that's going to be a little bit critical. And if I ask you to, like let's say count your name for 10 times, so you have to start your name from 1 to 10. That makes sense like a counter loop. But if I ask you say your name until I say stop, so this makes it a conditional loop. So while loop is an example of conditional loop, and do while is similar like while, but it has a slight difference, which I'll be just explaining, that while does check the condition first and then runs the body, which means statements, and do while does the statement first and then checks the condition. So this is just like kind of a thing that, for example, you're watching YouTube video and that YouTube video you run it for the first time, it has to go, but the second time it asks you, do you want to play it again? Until you keep playing it again and again, the same song will be playing. So in this type of situation, we may use do while loop. So let's see like how they actually look like if you really implement them, at certain places. So let's just start from the counter loop. So in the counter loop, it's very clear that we have, let's say, initialization, which means that from where the loop will start. Let's say if I ask you to repeat your name from 10 times, so you know that you have to start from 1, okay? So a starting point will happen only once. It will not be repeating again and again. The point that has to be repeating is the condition and body and incrementation, this place. Some people like Walter Savage, they call update place. So update does not mean that incrementation. It could be decrementation as well. So if you want to say like initialization, condition, and incrementation, it's all okay. Or if you say initialization, condition, and update, it's also okay. In the for loop, these 3 blocks will be initialized in the coding. When we will do the coding, we will learn about that. And then we will have the body. So body may be starting with the curly brackets like this, or if not like this, like with curly brackets, then only one statement after the for loop construct or for loop structure will be considered. We will see it very clearly when we will implement the code. It's almost the same thing as we implement the if statement. For example, if I have a if statement and I have not started the curly brackets, so only one statement will be considered after the, let's say I have 2 prints, let's say hello or this print. So only this print is dependent on this. But if I have a body and these both are here, so basically both of them are dependent. So it's exactly the same thing comes here. If your loop is there and you loop body is starting with curly brackets and curly ending, so all the statements will be repeating. So that's where we call that this is the body of the loop. So the condition comes first. For example, if I have any variable that is called counter variable, let's say I start the integer I starting from 0 or 1, whatever, and then you have to give semicolon, and then the condition will be tested first. So you have to give a condition, and condition can only be given using relational operator. That's what we have to understand. So relational operators we have learned. Sorry about this, my writing. So relational operators, we have learned that those are less than equals to, greater than equals to, and not equals. So these are the 6 ones that we can use directly here. So condition can, or you can directly put true here, which will make it infinite because this condition is not going to be false ever again. So, or you put a variable that you can control at the body here. It makes sense, but it is all about logic. Just try to understand that we have conditional here, which is based on relational operators or Boolean operators, let's say. And then we have body. In the body, you can keep anything, like maybe you can say your name 10 times and then updation. In the updation, you may use simple arithmetic operations like I plus plus or I, sorry about this, not this, I plus plus or I equals to I plus 1. So anything that you wanted to put here, or maybe you wanted to say minus minus I or I equals to I less minus 1. So anything that you want to put here has to be here. So that's how it look like. And then once we have the body done, and then we have to run this, how to say, this is first step, this is second step, and then body is the third step, and then it goes back here, this is the fourth step, and then after the fourth this has to be fifth step. So it will keep moving until it goes false. So the structure goes exactly condition, body, and incrementation or updation, and then goes back, does not go to initialization. That means initialization only happened once. So three main, you know, structures. In the forest structure, we have three main, ingredients. One is initialization that happens only once. Condition happens so many times until this makes it false. If it's not false, it will be always moving until here. So there will be a lot of situations maybe you encounter where you do something wrong here in the update place, then your loop may go infinite, which means like running time error. So you'll see like when we will implement them in the real coding, right? So let's see, like, then how about do while or while? While, as I told you, it's a conditional base, so it starts directly from the condition. Let's say does not have any initialization. Just directly come here, start with the condition, directly with condition. If it's true, then you have body. If it's false, you have no body. So that's the point. And you do not have any update here. That's also another difference between while and for loop. But if you see this do while, so you're gonna see like you have a body first, and then you have condition. So this is the coding structure. Don't make yourself confused. So this is just different pictures, or sorry, figures. So you're gonna see like we have a body first, and after body we have condition, and then if the condition is true, it goes up. Otherwise, it goes down. It will be keep moving until I don't know how many times. So why do we say like while is or do while is counter conditional loop? Because we don't know what authors are going to put in the body. That's one of the things. Only we know the ending point. As I told you, say your name until I say stop. So you only know stop is a condition, but you don't know like how many times I will ask you to say your name. So in our daily lives, we always encounter such kind of things. For example, we brush our teeth, or we, say, or we walk, so we encounter such kind of things. So when we are brushing our teeth, so as per my understanding, we repeat the same a block of code or block of actions. So what kind of loop it could be? So like one can say it is a loop, which is a while loop, or someone can say it's a do while. You clean at least once, or maybe some says like if you see your teeth in the morning and you see like your teeth are clean, so you don't brush. That's not the case actually. So you basically do while could be the best option here. So it is not necessary if someone says if this is while loop or it cannot be done in the for loop, but yes, we can do it in the for loop, but it's gonna be taking a lot of line of code wastage. So it's best is to do it with the while loop. But let's say, I mean, you can have another opinion about this, that you want to go for while loop or do while loop. It's up to you, no problem at all. So let's say you have how many months in a year, what kind of loop it could be. So definitely it's a counter loop. We start from January until December. So it's all good that if someone says for loop, that's perfectly right. So like you're playing Candy Crush. So what kind of loop it could be? If you say it's a for loop, which makes some sense because it's also definitely possible that you use, that how many messes are there to clear, right? So, or if one stage is clear, you wanted to play it again, this could make it too wide. But that situation makes it a little bit complicated, which basically makes it nested. So you have to clear the first level at least once you qualify that, then only you can be given an option that you wanted to play it again or not, right? So, and it's also possible that you have loop within loop. It's not necessary that you have to have for within for. You may have for as an outer loop, and you may have inner loop as while or do while loop. So it's the same thing with that we have learned in else if or if statements that we may have in nestation in selection structures. Exactly the same thing may happen. For example, if you see this picture. Let me, excuse me. So let's say like if you see this small arrow is moving, so you see that that is basically, oops. So this is basically making it move a few times and then only. So inner loop will finish first, then only external loop or outer loop will work. So it in simple words, let's say if I say that outer loop has to run, let's say this is outer loop has to run 10 times and inner loop has to run, let's say 5 times. So total is that outer loop will run 1 time and inner loop will run 5 times. Outer loop will go, this is outer loop, this is inner. Outer loop will go 1 time, second time, inner loop will go again 5 times. Just an example. So it will go like all like until this is not finished. It is one iteration of outer loop, all iteration of inner loop. This is how we have to consider. For example, we have hours. So in 1 hour, we have 60 minutes. In every minute, we have 60 seconds. So 1 minute cannot be going to another minute until the 60 seconds are done. That's how we say basically the nestation. So nestation is also happening in so many, daily life examples. For example, we know that we are playing this game, and so the Candy Crush, and then I have cleared this stage, and I can click it, and I can play it again. So it's called nestation. Or, but which kind of loop are you going to use at what time? This is up to you, right? As a logic. So we will see like how we can implement them. So to precisely say that we have two major kind of conditional structures in order to repeat the body of or some line of code, in order to save some space in coding, complexities. One is conditional, another one is repetitive. Oh, sorry about that. Counter. So counter means for loop, and conditional means while and do while loop. So in for loop, we know how many times we are going to run the body of the loop, and in while or do while loop, we don't know how many times we are going to run the body of the loop. But in do while, we know that at least once we're gonna run the body of the loop. So thank you so much. If you got any question, please do not hesitate to drop me the comment. Take care.